Republican leader.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
And I move to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371.
Clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar 168, H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Thank you. Mr. President, we're now in day 29 of the Democrat government shutdown, and I say that because it is a Democrat shutdown. Now, the Democrats are out there publicly saying, well, this is the Republicans who are responsible for shutting down the government, notwithstanding the fact that the House of Representatives has passed a bill sitting right here that with 5 more Democrats we could pick up and pass, put on the president's desk, he would sign it into law, and the government would reopen. Those are the simple facts. Those are indisputable facts. Now, what it suggests to me, however, when they say that it's the Republicans' fault or somehow the Republicans are responsible for shutting the government down, it really defies facts. It defies history. It defies reality. Because as everybody who's been around here knows, we have now voted 13 times. 13 times on that bill sitting at the desk that would open up the government, put everybody back to work, and all the pain that is being caused by the American people would go away. 13 times we've had that vote. Now, interestingly enough, that matches the number of times the Democrats passed a clean CR when they had the majority. The last 4 years under President Biden, 13 different occasions, they voted for a clean continuing resolution to fund the government. And at the time, they talked about how terrible it is that, the government should be taken hostage and you have a dispute over other issues. You got tons of statements. I mean, I could spend all day just repeating the statements that Democrats made over and over and over again about the importance of funding the government and not taking it hostage to discuss other issues. The record is replete with statements like that coming out of the Democrats. So 13 times they have voted against funding the government right here. 13 times while they were in the majority, they voted for a clean continuing resolution. Now explain that logic to the American people, who are the ones that are experiencing the pain and the consequence of their shutdown. I think the American people understand what's going on here. We consistently see that, and so much so that you even have the organizations, the unions around the country have come out now. You got the American Federation of Government Employees, you got the Teamsters, you got at least part of the Air Traffic Controllers Union, all have endorsed a clean funding resolution. That to me suggests that the American people, it is resonating with them about who's responsible for this government shutdown. But don't take my word for who it is. Take the Democrats' own words. If you look at what's been said by some of the Democrat leadership here, just in the last few days since the government actually shut down, that, of course, is the Democrat leader, Senator Schumer, who said every day gets better for us, commenting about the government shutdown. And my simple observation is, better for who? For you? Because you think you're winning politically? What about the air traffic controllers? What about the TSA agents? What about the American troops? What about our Border Patrol agents? What about the people who work in this building? What about the 40 million Americans that are going to not get SNAP benefits starting on Saturday if the government doesn't open up? But every day gets better, according to Senator Schumer. And then, of course, this last week, there was the House Democrat whip who said, of course, there will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times we have. Of course, there are families that are going to suffer. Yeah, true. But doesn't matter, because we got leverage. Then, of course, we have a third one here, one of our colleagues here in the Senate, the senator from Delaware, who said this in an interview: frankly, this is our only moment of leverage, and although a very unpleasant tool to use. Yeah, Yeah, it's unpleasant. It's unpleasant unless you're a Democrat who thinks that this gives you a moment of leverage. So, lest there be any question about who is responsible for shutting the government down, make no mistake about it. These guys are the ones who are out there bragging about it getting better for us every single day. Or we have more leverage now. Mr. President, this has gone on long enough. We've made it abundantly clear that this is not about what the Democrats say it's about. It's about the President in the White House. This is TDS. This is Trump derangement syndrome on steroids. And they are asking the American people to pay the price for that. 13 times when Biden was president, they had no issues with funding the federal government with a clean CR. Now we bring a clean, nonpartisan CR, no partisan riders, no policies, Republican policies attached, just funds the government. Comes over from the House a month ago now. We put it here just asking a handful of Democrats to join us because, as we know, it takes 60 in the Senate. And I think most people understand that. I mean, they're trying to ignore the fact now that the Republicans have control of Washington. They have the House, the Senate, and the White House. Anybody who follows this knows that in the United States Senate, the rules, the procedures in the Senate by which we operate and are governed require a 60-vote threshold. So it takes more than 51, meaning, since we have 53 Republicans, it's going to take a handful of Democrats. Well, we've been able to generate 55 votes consistently now, 13 different times, for funding the government, opening up the government, but we need 5 more. So the question is, are there 5 people over there with a backbone, 5 courageous Democrats, 5 Democrats who don't buy this, who don't believe that they ought to be using the American people as leverage, try and win a political battle? Are there 5 Democrats over there who believe that we ought to do what's in the best interest of the American people, the best interests of the air traffic controllers and the TSA agents, and the men and women in uniform, and the SNAP recipients that starting on Saturday are going to go without food assistance? This is not a game. You're playing with real people's lives. Now, in the Washington world, in the political world, they may think that they are winning this debate because it gives them leverage. But in the real world, where real people live, people are hurting. People here aren't getting paid. Federal workers aren't getting paid. As of Friday, last paycheck. Air traffic controllers, paychecks started going away yesterday. So, I'm still hopeful. I remain hopeful that there are enough sane Democrats who are not so afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome, because that is what this is about, fundamentally. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. This is about Trump derangement syndrome. And it has broken out over here in a way unlike anything I've seen in my time here. Disagree with the president, that's fine. Come down here, make statements, cast votes. Don't take the American people hostage and make them pay the price because you think that every day this is getting better for us. Now, Mr. President, the Democrat leader was on the floor yesterday morning claiming that once again Republicans don't want to talk about fixing health care. And let me just say, Mr. President, for the 1,282nd time, that Republicans are more than happy to have a discussion about health care. We should have a discussion about health care because Democrats' signature health care law has done exactly nothing to address the problem of rising health care costs. We were promised, of course, that it would. We were, in fact, promised that Democrats' signature law would fix our entire health care system. This is a quote. an historic bill that will finally reform our broken healthcare system and help millions of families and small businesses get the coverage they need at a price they can afford, end quote. That from the senior Democrat senator from Washington, speaking of Obamacare back in 2009. Or to quote President Obama himself, this law will cut costs and make coverage more affordable for families and small businesses, end quote. Cut costs and make coverage more affordable for families and small businesses. Except, of course, it didn't. And what has been very striking about the last few weeks is the Democrats are at least now admitting that. Oh yeah, they're saying it, they're not saying it straight out, but every time they talk about Americans facing a health care crisis, they are admitting that their signature health care law failed, that it did not address the problem of high health care costs, that it did not make health care more affordable for hardworking Americans. Now, Mr. President, I could go down the list of Obamacare's broken promises. If you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. If you like your doctor, you can keep him or her. Not true. Premium costs will go down. Not true. Exactly the opposite. You look at since 2013 to today, what premium costs have done in the individual marketplace on the exchanges, it is a line like this. So suffice it to say, as Democrats are now implicitly admitting that Obamacare massively failed in its aims, Democrats, of course, now want to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound by extending the Biden COVID bonuses. But of course, extending those credits will do nothing to fix the underlying problem, which is that health care costs will continue to spiral under Obamacare. Throwing $350 billion in taxpayer dollars at the problem in the form of enhanced tax credits will do nothing to stop Obamacare premiums from going up by double digits, because that is what they have been doing. And it will do nothing to improve health care for the majority of Americans who are not on Obamacare health plans, like our seniors, our most vulnerable citizens, and those who get their coverage through their employer. Mr. President, while Democrats are, shall we say, shaky on the facts when it comes to their dramatic health care speeches, while Obamacare premiums are increasing, the median plan premium is not, in fact, going to double next year. It is absolutely true that Democrats have created real health care problems. And as I've said more times than I can count, Republicans are ready and willing to have a discussion about those problems and about how we lower costs for hardworking Americans. We are, in fact, eager to have that discussion. The President is willing to have Democrats over to discuss it next week if they vote to reopen the government. Because in the words of the Democrat leader back in 2013, we are not going to negotiate with a gun to our heads. That's what he said. This is a serious matter. And I know Democrats think you can solve any problem simply by throwing billions of taxpayer dollars at it. The record's pretty clear on that. But you can't. Genuine remedies for the problem of soaring health care costs are not going to be arrived at with a brief late-night session behind closed doors in the Democrat leader's office. We need extended, serious bipartisan work with input from all senators. And we need Democrats to reopen the government so that work can start. Republicans are brimming over with health care ideas, from cost-sharing reductions to actually lower health care or health plan costs, I should say, to association health plans, to ways to stop Obamacare's spiral of enriching insurers at the expense of everyday Americans. In fact, we already took steps to make health care more affordable and accessible when we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill this summer, which expanded health savings accounts and telehealth for Americans, to say nothing of investing heavily in rural health care and ensuring that our health care entitlement programs are focused on those most in need. So I say, we are looking forward to having a real discussion with Democrats. But to quote another Democrat senator, the junior Democrat from Connecticut, there is a time and a place to debate health care, just like there is a time and a place to debate energy policy and immigration and education, but not when the funding of the federal government and all the lives that are impacted by it hang in the balance, end quote. Mr. President, there are a lot of Americans suffering right now because of the Democrats' month-long shutdown. And the suffering increases every day. It's time. It's past time for Democrats to reopen the government. And once they do, Republicans look forward to having some serious discussions about how to address rising health care costs and the failures of the Democrats' signature health care law. Now, Mr. President, before I close, I'd like to mention a bill that Democrats are reportedly going to attempt to move by unanimous consent today. And I would just say that after a month of steadily increasing pain, thanks to the Democrats' shutdown, Democrats have apparently woken up to the fact that in 3 days, they're going to be responsible for SNAP recipients starting to go without food stamps. So what are Democrats doing? Are they making plans to end their shutdown and reopen the government? Nope. They're going to propose a bill to fund food stamps during their shutdown. That's right. Democrats don't want the bad press of hungry Americans. But they're also apparently unwilling to even contemplate ending their month-long shutdown. So they're trying to insulate themselves with this bill. Mr. President, do you know what's not in this bill? Paychecks for our troops. Paychecks for law enforcement officers and federal firefighters. Paychecks for air traffic controllers. Paychecks for other government workers. Funding for rental and housing assistance. Funding for small business loan programs. Funding for farm loan programs. Funding for tribal programs. Funding for Head Start. Funding for rural development programs. Funding for National Guard training. Funding for telehealth services. Shall I go on? Because I'm happy to. Every one of those programs I've mentioned has either run out of money, is running out of money, or is otherwise in jeopardy because of the Democrats' government shutdown. And the Democrats' bill would do nothing to support even one of those programs. Thanks to Democrats, federal workers are lining up at food banks. The Democrats' bill is certainly not going to help them as they struggle to pay the rent, or the electric bill, or make their car payment. Mr. President, enough is enough. This bill is a cynical attempt to provide political cover for Democrats to allow them to carry on their government shutdown even longer. And we're not going to let them pick winners and losers. It's time to fund everybody. And the bill sitting at the desk right there does that. We just need 5 brave Democrats. If Democrats really want to fund SNAP and WIC, we have a bill for them. A clean, nonpartisan CR to fund SNAP, WIC, and the entire federal government. Or we could pass the agricultural appropriations bill the Democrats have been resisting behind closed doors. That would fund SNAP, WIC, and our farm and conservation programs, not to mention ensuring salaries for the people who inspect our food and support our farmers. I'm happy to bring that up right now. Mr. President, Democrats have spent a month now, playing with people's livelihoods because the far left wing of their party won't let them accept a clean, nonpartisan CR. Enough is enough. We're not giving Democrats political cover. If they want to prevent damage from their shutdown, then they can end their shutdown. The bill's right there at the desk. And I will call a vote the minute Democrats tell me they have enough votes to fund the government. Ball's really in their court, Mr. President. Is this what you want the American people to think? That you're willing to give them enormous amounts of pain and adverse consequence so that you can gain leverage, political leverage. It's time to end it, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Democrat leader.
Mr. President, we are just 3 days away from open enrollment and 3 days away from the biggest health care crisis America has seen in a generation. Right now, millions of Americans, at this moment, all day today, millions of Americans are getting sticker shock as the so-called window shopping period has begun. Americans' families, as they window shop, are seeing that due to Republican obstruction, they will end up having to pay tens of thousands of dollars more each year for health care, seeing their premiums triple, quadruple, or more, just to afford a basic need like health insurance. And what is Donald Trump doing? He's ignoring one colossal health care crisis while manufacturing another, a hunger crisis. In a matter of days, SNAP benefits will run out for 42 million Americans, and let's be very clear, this does not need to happen. This is on Donald Trump's shoulders. He can immediately provide SNAP benefits, as every president has done in the past. Every single president was not so cruel and heartless to hold those hungry children, hungry elderly, hungry veterans as hostages. But Donald Trump, who is a cold, heartless individual, only advancing himself, is doing it for the first time in American history. Never before in American history, not once under a Democratic president or Republican president, has SNAP funding lapsed during a shutdown. Not even in 2019 during Trump's last shutdown. In fact, Trump himself funded SNAP throughout that shutdown. So this argument that he can't do it, that he doesn't have the money, that it's not legal, is just bull. Self-serving, nasty, vicious bull. To try and take the most needy people in our society who don't have food right now. It could be a middle-class person who lost a job. Could be an elderly person who has health care costs. And he's saying, the hell with you. I need you to be my hostage for political purposes because I don't want to provide health care for the American people. Just weeks ago, Trump's own U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed in writing that contingency funds, about $6 billion in emergency reserves, were available to, quote, fund participant benefits. That's not Democrats saying it. That is the Republican-appointed U.S. Department of Agriculture saying again, $6 billion in emergency reserves were, quote, available to fund participant benefits. But then suddenly, after USDA said it, Trump ordered the Department of Agriculture to rip up the contingency plan, literally delete it from their website, the big lie that they can't do it, and told them not to use emergency funds. No explanation, no justification, just plain cruelty from a man who only serves himself. Donald Trump is picking politics over the lives of hungry kids. He is weaponizing hunger, turning millions of children, seniors, and veterans into political pawns to score points in a shutdown fight. Donald Trump is a vindictive politician and a heartless man. And that's why he doesn't care about cutting off food aid to hungry kids. And of course, what he's doing is totally unprecedented. Let's not forget who it affects. 2/3 of SNAP recipients are children, seniors, or people with disabilities. That's who Trump is cutting off. Kids who rely on school meals, seniors on fixed incomes, veterans trying to get by. That's why every single president in history continued SNAP benefits during a shutdown. Instead, what does Trump do? He's focused on $40 billion to bail out Argentina, rather than how to keep SNAP benefits flowing for Americans here at home. And don't give me the lie that this can't be done legally. Every single president, Republican, Democrat, and Trump himself in 2016 has used these funds during shutdowns to keep SNAP running. Trump's own administration asserted that these emergency funds could be used to keep SNAP benefits flowing in a shutdown, and the Government Accountability Office, that's nonpartisan, confirmed it. The USDA can also use the same transfer authority they used to keep WIC afloat in October to move money over to SNAP for November. To claim otherwise is a bald lie. Republicans are on a crusade to kill SNAP. They tried to do it in their big, beautiful bill. They don't like funding hungry children. They say to the most needy in society, we don't give a damn about you. In fact, we'll use you as political pawns. Trump and Republicans spent their entire summer slashing SNAP by a historic $200 billion. Why? To pay for tax cuts for billionaires. Now they're doubling down, using the shutdown to further devastate families and leave kids hungry. But Democrats will not stand by while Trump manufactures a hunger crisis. We're ready to work in whatever way to solve this issue. There's a bill right now from Senator Hawley, a Republican, a conservative Republican, that could ensure SNAP is funded. It has Republican and Democratic support. It's a bill I'd happily support and vote for. And as soon as Thune would let Hawley put it on the House floor, it will pass, plain and simple. But that's not the only option, of course. This week, Senate Democrats, led by my friend Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, will introduce legislation to fully fund SNAP and WIC, going better than Hawley's bill, to protect hungry kids, pregnant women, veterans, working parents. The bill is simple, it's moral, it's urgent, and ask John Thune why he won't put it on the floor. He decries the fact that SNAP benefits are cut off. He knows the money is available. He knows there's broad Republican support for it, and he doesn't put it on the floor. He's afraid of Trump. That's it. He knows better. We Democrats are ready to act. We will push to pass the Lujan bill. We will vote for the Hawley bill if Thune does the right thing and puts it on the floor before the weekend, before families lose their benefits, before holidays turn into a hunger crisis. We are ready to act. We're ready to work with anyone, Republicans or Democrats, who are willing to stop this cruelty. But Senate Republicans, especially Leader Thune, have to find the courage to stand up to Trump. Right now, they're frozen, paralyzed by fear, by cynicism, while millions of Americans wonder how they'll feed their families. So I say to my Republican colleagues, don't block the Hawley bill. Put it on the floor, Senator Thune. Don't block the Lujan bill, which goes even better. Don't let politics outweigh compassion. Let's stop this hunger shutdown. Let's stop this shutdown. Let's stop the shutdown Republicans caused, using hungry people as pawns. Let's feed our people, and let's end this hunger crisis before it begins. Now on China's Asian trip and tariffs. As we enter the 29th day of the government shutdown, where's Donald Trump? Gallivanting in Asia, dancing in Malaysia. He's preparing now to meet with President Xi of China to strike a trade deal that will sell out the American people, give away vital national security tools in exchange for little more than a photo op. President Trump is about to congratulate himself, patting himself hard on the back for cleaning up a mess that he created. Again, President Trump is about to congratulate himself for cleaning up a mess that he created. It's amazing what this guy does. It's the same story with his so-called deal with South Korea. We're actually worse off because tariffs on Korean imports went from 2% now to 15%. But Donald Trump created a mess and now wants credit for pretending like he fixed it. On China, Donald Trump's trade negotiations with China have been a failure. His actions have decimated soybean farmers. He has hurt small businesses. And has he revived any of American manufacturing? No. China's still flooding global markets with subsidized goods, still stealing American technologies to undercut U.S. firms and workers. And meanwhile, we have lost tens of thousands of American manufacturing jobs. This is Trump's MO in foreign policy. He creates a giant mess. Then he wants everyone to praise him when he tries to clean it up and ignore the damage that he has inflicted. He creates the mess, tries to clean it up, and pats himself on the back when we're no better off, worse off than when we started. Now, in anticipation of today's meeting with Trump and President Xi, Senate Democrats are demanding that President Trump not negotiate away America and our allies' national security. He is using the most advanced semiconductor chips, which China doesn't have, as a bargaining chip. China is desperate to get these chips. And if Trump gives it away, China will dominate the world of AI in a few short years. And Americans will pay an awful price. Where are our China hawks on the Republican side decrying this? Where are they? Because these chips are vital, and it's American technology that has produced them, American companies that make them. China is desperate to get them because it will make them the leader in AI in a few years. AI, the most dominant technology in the world. And China and Trump is willing to give away those crown jewels so he can say he has a deal and undo the mess that he created with tariffs. Donald Trump's chip deal is not America first, but China first, putting China first over the next decade in what is the most crucial technology facing the world. Americans will regret that move for generations. Historians will note it as one of the turning points where America became not the primary power in the world, but secondary to China. All because Trump wants an immediate press hit to say, hey, I have a deal, even though that deal doesn't move us forward at all and cleans up the mess he created. Now, President Trump's trip to the Asian continent could have been an opportunity to make progress with America's vital partners. He could have used this trip to end his reckless trade war, to stop alienating our allies, to show strength and unite our allies against the Chinese Communist Party, and most importantly, to help Americans struggling with high costs here at home. But so far, his trip has been a total dud. By the end of his trip to Asia, it could be the case that we somehow have higher tariffs on our neighbor Canada than we do on our biggest rival, China. How on earth does that make sense? In fact, the biggest news out of this trip is that Donald Trump seems to finally realize that he can't run for a third term. That just goes to show you how fruitless this trip has been. American families are facing enough problems right now with the nightmare of open enrollment, the pain of higher groceries, the prices of everything from cars to home appliances to electricity skyrocketing. The last thing they want is to turn on the TV and see Trump being gifted a golden crown and then signing a deal with China that royally screws over Americans. Trump's trade war has been an utter disaster from the start. It's been a nightmare for our allies, for our economy, for our families who are paying more because of the Trump tariff tax. I'm proud the Senate came together yesterday in a bipartisan vote, 52-48, to end Trump's tariffs on Brazil yesterday. The tariffs he puts on Brazil is simply because he's angry that the Brazilian government is prosecuting a friend of his, a guy who's MAGA just like him? Isn't that amazing? That's why he put Trump tariffs on Brazil? That's why Americans are paying more for their cup of coffee in the morning? Because Trump wants to embrace and help a MAGA right-wing guy who's being prosecuted by the legitimate Brazilian government? It's amazing. This week we'll have more resolutions to push back on Trump's trade war and help stop the bleeding. Our Republican colleagues will have a choice. Stand with Trump's idiotic, disastrous, and often juvenilely inspired tariffs, or stand with American families and vote to lower costs for people back home. I yield the floor.